Good morning. And today I will make a 7,000 years of journey, 7,000 to 8,000 years of journey of uh, Hindu food. And Hindu food is directly related to its religion and religious practices. And I would like to claim that it was only Hindus who invented cooking because it was directly connected to the Purusha and other philosophical concepts. Uh, all the Mongoloids, say Chinese, Japanese, Southeast Asian people, they are primarily raw food. Okay, and much later they learned steaming of foods. That's all. And spices were never there. Of course, spice went from India to all over the world. However, they never learned how to use the spices. There are several fundamental flaws in using the spices. For an example, Arabs were closest to Indians, and there were exchange of knowledge with Sumerians and Mesopotamians for thousands and thousands of years. Still, if you go now and eat the food in Iraq, Iran, or Turkey, or other parts of Middle East, you will find that they do not have any grammar and they have fundamental flaw. So it's almost like Indian cooking. And there were in the post-Islamic period, Islamic historians and the secularist historians have tried to prove that Indians didn't know how to cook food before 15th century. Muslims brought all the food to India to justify the Hindu genocide. So these practices went on. So there are many misconceptions, and I will try to resolve all the misconceptions today to prove you argumentatively that even in Africa there were raw food, or burnt or roasted foods. In Europe, even in the 1950s, 1960s, they used to have steak, boiled potato, and boiled beans and others as their primary food. And you know the origin of pasta was or pizza was never Italy. It came much later, and wine and others were in India from grape wine flavored with mango for thousands of years. So all these issues that why there was no invention of food, and why I argue that we have a documented history on the evolution of food, and the foundation grammar of foods, restrictions, how to do, what to do. For an example, I would like to tell one particular book to you. It's called Ashtanga Sangraha, and that actually is the archive of Indian food evolution. So Ashtanga Sangraha is not a book that somebody comes and writes. So it gets evolved and added and added and added. So what you find in the post-Vedic era, the documentation of Ayurveda, actually this is very much debated. Probably even before the Vedic era, such a thing existed. Let me get you to some of the myths and associated things. For an example, I would like to talk about banana. So it is said that banana came from the Southeast Asia or somewhere, because nothing can be born in India, right? Because Indians are the only, or the Hindus were the only continued civilization for thousands and thousands of years. So we have to always, historians or scientists have to prove that Indians had no vegetables, nothing. So you will find hundreds of research papers that Harappans were eating barley and all these kind of things. However, recent research shows very different. For an example, you can do electron spin resonance from the teeth of the cow of the Harappan era or the humans, and they found astounding evidences. For an example, banana. Harappans used to eat banana. So from the Marco Marella from Spanish National Research Council, he found that in the pot there were burnt banana and the use of banana leaves, and that if you use burned banana leaves with salt, mixed with roasted banana with salt, then it works as a very good antibiotic agent, and it was used in the Vedic era. So both in Lotation in Gujarat and Kot Diji in Pakistan, so they found that in the grinding stone, they used to use grinding stone, special kind of stone-based thing, which Indians have lost now. Hopefully, when the Hindus will regenerate their temples and get it free from the government, which British took, and the right of the temples in 1920s, and still the Indian government today, 2024, has not given it back to Hindus. So Hindus are living in slavery. So when they will get back, perhaps this grinding cultures, many different kind of grinding. So if you see in Ayurveda, even the medicines are now created with special kind of grinding. So grindings have some special reason. So this Spanish professor Marco Madella have found that this grinding stones contains roasted banana leaves, and many different kind of banana ingredients. How Harappans got this, and it was widely varied culture. So if you come to Indian part of the Harappan civilization or Western part, and the oldest part, in the deep inside in current Pakistan and Afghanistan. So that region also used roasted banana and bananas. So that means where did they get the banana? So all the thousands of paper that are published, even by Indians, because current Indians wants to get some brownie scores from the white skins, and they have the slave mentality. So whatever the master publishes, they follows, and they try to get high citations. So you will what they argue that it came from, they had a business with Southeast Asia. Oh God, is there any civilization documented? No. I mean, if they have to have a civilization, then entire Ganges Valley, Bengal, and Northeast India, entire part were civilized. Are you going to accept that? If you do, then you have even bigger problem. Hmm? So, Western historians have a really big issue here with the banana. Second, I would like to get into the research work of Jennifer Betts, and he is from University of Cambridge, white skin, so you will not have any problem to trust her research. So she showed that Harappans were using different kind of millet, rice, wheat, and they had two types of cropping system, because nowadays the science is very advanced. You can go through, you can take the starch or other leftovers of the plants, and you can analyze the organic chemicals and find out its genetic combinations and how old were they. So they found that Indians were using moong as lentil. So moong lentil is my favorite dish. I cook very good with the tomato, and then with peas. So the moong soup, we mix with rice and we eat it, and that was there in the Harappan civilization. So telling that they had very primitive barley and something, that's not true. And now I would like to talk about the most interesting part. The Science magazine in July 2012, volume 337, you can find this beautiful article called "The Ingredients for a 4,000-Year-Old Proto Curry." And there they have they have mentioned that how Steve Farber from another white skin. So please have some respect on the document I'm saying. So Steve Farber found in the west of Delhi from human teeth that the ginger and turmeric compositions were used in the food. So that means curry was there. So what you eat in the Indian restaurants today, 2,500 years ago, the ginger and turmeric and other ingredients were combined to build the curry. And not just that, Steve Harper is, by the way, from Washington State University, very civilized. So follow and believe him. And they used to have the same curry. And then when they did the same study from the cows in Harappa, and then they found that cows were given same food as the humans, and they had the same ginger turmeric combinations in the teeth, and when they extracted protein and analyzed, they found that. So in 2010, Science magazine in page 28, if you go, then you will find that the Harappan culture had cows and dairy products and foods in their diet, and it was not Aryans who started cow culture. Cow culture was very much there with the Harappans. So Aryan invasion theory is the conspiracy theory which came in the 1830s, funded by Queen Elizabeth, and Max Muller took 30,000 gold coins and then promoted this nonsense theory, for which he apologized 1852s. But even now, majority of Indian historians believe Aryan invasion theory was correct. Now, since white skinned people are coming up, we Hindus are grateful to these white skinned people, because these coconuts who are brown from outside and white from inside, they will see their masters, what they are saying. And when masters are saying that Harappans used cows, Harappans used complex Ayurvedic combinations of banana, having mung dal or mung lentil, and all these kind of combinations and dietary compositions, just as prescribed in Ayurveda, because adding salt, adding turmeric, all these are very fundamental concepts of Ayurveda, from which is directly connected to the Hindu diet. So now there will be no problem. So let's now get back. And also they found village to village, there were dietary practices were very, very different, just like today's time. I'm a Bengali. I love eating rice based, and then those who are from UP or Bihar, they love wheat based. So there were this kind of differences. And I would like to get into some exotic debates first. For an example, Indians now eat biryani a lot, because Indian Hindus are becoming more meat lover, and then destroying all the fundamental concepts of Ayurvedas, which were integral part of the society in the food habit and something. Like, for an example, there were plenty of restrictions, like you should never eat if there is no sun. So as soon as the dusk, even when I was a little kid, my mother never allowed. In the dusk, you can't eat anymore. So people used to sleep in the evening and get up early in the morning. So it was a beautiful health concept. So if Indians would have followed it, no one would have diabetes. Eating everything before the sunlight, because your hair can fall, and in that light, you must not eat. Let's now get back to some of the exotic things that we should know. So biryani is a Persian word. It's called biryani, and it means anni is anna, almost like. So it's a fried rice. So biryani is a steamed food, and it has meat and uh, and rice and curd is essential ingredient. And you eat kheer. So kheer is a Puranic food, and which are essential part of biryani. And milk cream, that is we call ghee, is also an integral part. Where in the world you had this for thousands of years, this kind of dietary things? In India. So palanna, the pal means meat, anna means rice. So cooking rice with meat, as a combination of this kind of combinations with dry fruits and others. So you can understand that when historians try to prove that all kind of great foods that Indians have now came from Middle East, Mughals brought it. Where did Mughals live? You don't find a place for them. They were absolutely uncivilized. They didn't know how to build houses or anything. But in Indian history, and I mean, it is the most pathetically written history. And why India is a third world country, you can understand if you read its history book. Mughals, whose origin is questioned, whose civilization is questioned. And in the history book, we brainwash our kids that they brought the foods from India. They brought many, many beautiful things. For an example, saffron. Saffron, you will find wide use of saffron in Ashtanga Sangraha, documented in 7th century in Gupta era. So they used to add saffron with milk, and they used to do that. And they say it came 15th century, after 800 years. Can you imagine? So apart from after I talk about all these kind of meats about food. For an example, we have shukto in Bengal, so it's a milk paste. So what is the base? Always you think that curry means you add onion, garlic, ginger paste together with all this. That's the problem. That is how. So there was uh, uh, different kind of base for this. It could be milk base, so that means payasham. You could have biryani or pulao or something where rice, a equal proportion of you get milk or kheer, and when you boil the rice, they should be as integral part. So milk contain lot of lactose, and lactose protein goes inside the rice. So that is very much essential in this milk-based diet. So biryani, pulao, or whatever you see, payasam, they were there, not in khichdi. So khichdi is another kind of thing where lentil and rice were put together. So protein and carbohydrate will go together. So slowly I will get into the grammar, and I will try to show why cooking was invented only in India and no other part of the world. And it is from India the different time cooking went, but nobody learned it properly because they never studied Ayurveda. So that's why if you go to Spain, say French food, they use 50 different type of spices, but they add in any sequence. There is no proper sequence, and there is no time gap between different spices. But in Hindu cooking, in Ayurvedic cooking, even if you go to the slums and see a lady cooking in their tiny little chula, and you will find that she follows exactly the sequence and one after another. If you go to the Persian cooking, and then all of them they say, "Oh, one of the greatest foods in the world," and all these kind of things, you will find that they add garlic in the end, raw garlic, and raw these things, and you will find that the proper thing that add the garlic first, fried, and then onion should be fried, and then the ginger comes at the end. So they have just opposite things. And sometimes it doesn't exist. So the use of ginger is another great marker that you'll find that how to use one after another. Like jira should come first, and there are many such spices like garam masala. Garam masala used two types: roasted, added later, dust. Make it a dust paste and add later. So there were steps of cooking. For an example, post cooking. After cooking is done, you take cilantro and then chop it, or mint, and put it there. So this sequential form of cooking is absent even now all over the world, except Indian restaurants or others. You can't. Of course, I must say that Indian cooking is extremely versatile and varied, and you will not find it anywhere. So before I get into the grammar and other technical part of Indian cooking, I would like to just bring to your notice a beautiful a beautiful beautiful note. So if Indian food habit, I mean, Jain religion had a huge impact in the Gupta era, 7th century, 5th century, when Indian food actually culminated to its peak. Why? If you find the Puranas and Samhitas have talked widely about Indian food habits in 1500 BC, the cooking system, what kind of chula or or the heat you will be using, and how that heat has to be prepared, they also had it, and what kind of how you will blow winds. So nowadays they think this is a very punishing for the women to blow wind with a pipe. So I have seen with my grandmother how she used to use the different kind of winds and these techniques to control the flame. The how thick would be the pot, what kind of pot should be used for what kind of cooking, a wide ranges of grammars. I can talk days after days about it. However, those grammars when documented in Puranas and Samhitas, you can especially in Ashtanga Sangraha, you can tell that how 4,000 years of a food history went on. So let me tell you that that drinking a lot of milk were always documented as a natural habit. So warm milk and never eat fruit in the night, and you eat fruit only after daytime meal. So this was kind of a restrictions you will never find anywhere in the world in any dietary practices. So you can understand the origin of cooking was in India, because it was part of because always we say whenever you invent a rule, you put restrictions. Those who don't have any restrictions in the last 6,000, 7,000 years cannot claim that they invented cooking. Indians invented cooking because of restrictions. What food you should not take after what. So this list of restrictions is so large, it's very difficult to very difficult even document. Yeah, use of sastika rice from Magadha was very famous, and Mahabrihi rice variety, like nowadays there are, like I'm from Bengal, Tulai Panji, Govindabhog are kind of exotic rice. So that time what kind of rices were exotic and their brands, those kind of combinations were used. Yeah, I'm talking about 1500 or 2000 years back, when they were rice variety, many rice varieties. So um, uh, the milk, the documented history shows that Indians used to use milk of elephants, um, uh, and buffaloes, camel, goat, sheep, mares. So 7 different kind of animals milk were used for different purposes. You can't use, for an example, kulfi like thing. We always use buffalo milk, or in biryani they use buffalo. So what kind of cooking you need to carry out, because each type of milk has a very different kind of flavors and its use. And for an example, sugar candy. You will find sugar candy nowadays as if it has come from Europe and went all over. No, sugar candy were written, documented more than 1500 or 1600 years back. And then the sweet dishes. I would like to tell in few names. So you say that British created some starter, some main, and then there will be dessert. You know, Indians even now use bitter. It starts with bitter. So that is the Ayurvedic prescription. So what you eat after what? If you just see Even now in the slums, what, or if there is a festival or something, how do the Indians eat, or documented 1400, 1500 years back. You can find, when Romans or when Europeans were using their food, uh, just roasting, just roast, nothing else. That time, there were varieties of desserts. So how do you make the dessert? There is a well laid out grammar. For an example, I would like to name some, like krasara, modaka, ukanika, samyada va, pupa, feneka, payasa, avyusha, and garaudana. Garaudana is something, we now in Bengal we call it nakuldana. So you have, popcorn. So popcorn covered with sugar. So you can understand the supremacy of the variety of this, and nothing were invented out of the blue or something. Everything came from a grammar. For and there were very well outlined methods. So time will pass by, and we will perhaps get back. So Matsya Purana and Vayu Purana has also described different kind of alcoholic drink, from grapes, sugarcane, honey, and rice. So even now, honey-based alcohols don't exist. So you can understand what kind of scientific technology existed at that point of time. Rice-based alcohol you can find in India, you can find everywhere, even now in India. From different kind of flour-based wines, you can, even if you now go to the tribal places in India, you will find many different types of alcohol. However, alcoholic drinks, and they were flavored. For an example, you find the documents, historical documents of Gupta era, that there was mango juice were added with wine, and then there were cocktails, and cocktail combinations and compositions were documented. So wine was discovered in Europe after the plague, and then all the people died, and then it was poisonous, and then they came up wine. These kind of pathetic nonsense stories should stop, because the documented step by step procedures how to make wine has started from Puranas and Sangitas, and then Purana stories, Purana pictures of Purana stories were crafted on the pots of Harappan civilization. So telling that Aryans brought those pots actually are the evidences, that Harappans knew the Purana stories. Purana stories, Purana is one of the fundamental documents of a Hindu Sanatan history. So getting back, the women were allowed to have wine and alcohol, not men. Even when my mother was pregnant with me, I have heard my mother used to tell that time how much a husband loves their wife used to be proved, that if they was to bring some little wine to get rid of the pain due to birth of babies, and they used to give little bit of alcohol to my father used to give it to my mother, and it was very common practice for thousands of years. And it was kind of a secret signature of love. My father never used to take wine or alcohol. So this kind of practices was always there. They used to say that women become more beautiful when they drink wine. They become much more exotic, and they become much more rational if they take wine. So next time when you hear that grapes from Italy, it was Scotch whiskey was invented in Scotland. So all these kind of things take a question mark, because even when they didn't know how to make a dress, how to make a proper dress. Look at the 15th century dress in Europe. They didn't know how to put a cloth. They didn't know how to use a button. They didn't know how to do sewing or other things. So they even in the 1950s, 1960s, even after staying with the Indians for 200 years, British did not learn how to cook. and it still used to use steak and others. So even in the 20th century, this is the situation. And then in 5th or 6th century AD, Hindus were documenting with the archive how what are the practices should be there, what are not should be there. So then you can understand that there were something very, very different. Now I would like to get to the supremacy of Indian cooking, and why do I say that such kind of richness and supported by grammar, historical documentation, and what to do, what not to do, written rules. So European historians and scientists would always tell you that if where is written, where it is written. So if where it is written, then say and accept this truth clearly, that you never invented cooking. Cooking was invented in India by Hindus because of their well-documented process of their Sanatani religion, religious practices, and implementing Ayurvedic practices into it. So cooking was not just anything, boil, like steam with a pressure cooker. Never. How to steam, that pot should be different. We had a copper plate, brass plate, and a bronze pot, and we have earthen. What kind of earthen pot? When I was kid, I used to see my brother had some stomach issues and other kids, so they took out 12 years old, 14 years old rice. So millets were used to be preserved for many different years, depending on what kind of disease you have. My uneducated grandmother had the knowledge that this kind of seeds needs to be mixed with the rice, and then they put it in a small soil, okay, and they put the rice and water and put it on the ashes after cooking, and then whole night it used to be there. In the morning they used to break that pot, the soil pot, and the rice ball used to come out, and that was the medicine for many different kind of diseases, including stomach upset and then other kind of things. So I have seen it with my own eyes, that how very incredible Ayurvedic practices are now getting lost. So oil based cooking, when you fry with different oil, something you cook with coconut oil, something you cook with aru and different fruit based oil. So at least even now, for an example, Himachal Pradesh, their oil base is very different kind. In Bengal, we have mustard seed oil. So what kind of seed will be used also dependent on the weather and the different places in India. So Indian cooking evolved over time. Depending on the locality, environment, they shifted the oil base and adjusted accordingly. They started they started even rotten foods. Even now in Bengal, you can get panta bhat, we call it. So it's a rice 1 day or 2 day old or 3 days old. It's not like 12 years old egg that used to come on pungent smell food that you get in Japan or in China, where they get the food rotten for years and then 100%. No, it's a partially rotten food that is widely practiced all over India. And for an example, you want to create steaming dishes. Pots were very different, but there were also use of leaves. For an example, I'm a Bengali. We take rasgulla. It's a spongy milk-based dessert, you can say. It's a sweet dish, and we take it with lotus leaf. If you take it with lotus leaf, the taste is totally different. It's heavenly. But if you take normally a rasgulla, you don't get it. So it seems a banana leaf steaming. So you cover the things with banana leaf. So if you say that roasting was invented in Europe, for thousands of years, Hindus have been doing this. So it could be lauki leaves. So what kind of food you want to cook? Accordingly, you put raw spices, okay? So Indians knew other than curry. So raw spices with those, and you steam it. And what kind of combination would be there are all documented. and what kind of pot you will use for that steaming. So there is cloth based steaming also. So like a lentil, you cover it with cloth and then put in the rice, and then other things you put in a cloth. So there will be semi transparency, and then this combination. So these grammars were taught to the women. So every single Hindu mother who were housewives, they were an Ayurvedic medicinal expert, an Ayurvedic cooking expert, and the normal health and many other knowledge were given to them apart from artwork. If you see my grandmother's artwork, it's beautiful. Many of the women I see today, very modern, but they don't know many type of artwork. My grandmother never went, but entire house we had a decoration room. Nowadays you have a drawing room where you put something purchased from there, but in an ancient time, even 50, 60 years back, the drawing room of a house would be totally covered by the artwork of the wife. So that when outside people come and the husband or grihakarta will show the artwork of a wife all around the house. So anyway, so let's get insect-based diet was also there. You are now planning to create a start insect-based diet in the world, but what kind of, even you find many places in India they use insect, there are a special kind of insect which creates a special kind of larva, and that is used in pickles. And there were deep inside the soil, they used to put and use the heat of the soil and eat. It is said that Buddha died eating that kind of deer meat, because Buddha were kicked out by the Buddhists monks, and he used to live near the Nepal border with the tribals. He left the society because he understood how dangerous they were. So his ashes were in that village, and British took it to the British Museum. 1960s, government of India brought it and put it in Saranath or something. So you can understand that Buddha's last rites were carried out following Hinduism. Buddha was never, I mean, he never supported the cult-like religion that was converted in his last life at the age of 80. When he died with the tribals, that history is systematically deleted. But how can you delete the fact that the British person who discovered his ashes and took it to the British Museum, he didn't take it from a very famous place. It was a tribal land. It's a very nasty place where it is documented. So after 2,600 years of Buddha's death, nobody cared about his ashes. Only British did. They understood the importance of it, and then they took it to British Museum. So there are many things, good things about British also. So now I would like to come to the curry bases. So curry bases could be milk. Curry bases could be rice. Curry bases could be created by different kind of juice. Or soup, or stew, you can say. So these were, so use of different kind of bases. What kind of base you will use to do what, and that is also very different kind of thing. In Odisha, if you go, you will find they put lots of vegetables in milk, and then they boil, and then they eat. So and also khichdi or mixtures of seeds and spices together and boiled together, and then isolated local separation of clusters of different kind of seeds in a cloth, and and steaming it simultaneously. That was another part of cooking. So if I go on describing, you will find nowhere in the world you will find a documentation and this grammar of what and how to do. So I have seen when I was kid in Bengal, that many different designs of soil, of earthen pots, many different kind of soil. One, Puri Jagannath temple, they have used one pot, and then another pot, and another pot, and another pot, another pot. And it's a 70, 80 pots, one after another, and all are cooked simultaneously. Of course, you know the science behind it, and many, many things. But if you don't know that, even with one pot, you could have multi-layer earthen, and the holes were used to be very different. And in different hole pot, what kind of food you put, and we call it pita. That means you find it in China and Japan. They put rice bread bread made of rice, and wrap it. And they put it meat, they put it something. And in Bengal, we used to put many different kind of seeds pasted together, and it used to be sweet dishes. So, so like sugar. How many types of sugars Hindus used to use? Sugarcane was not the only thing. Sugarcane we never used to use. We used the sugarcane as a juice, palm as a juice, but there were many other types of flower-based honey from which you used to use we used to use their crystals as sweeteners. Including different garam masalas that you see today. So sequence of cooking, that you add to put the oil, put the tejas leaves, bay leaves. When you use bay leaves, when you use lime leaves, when you use other kind of mint leaves, that was there. So apart from this sequence of cooking, sequence of spice use that you don't find even now in anywhere in the Middle East, in Persian and other foods, so don't try to tell us that they invented, we learned from them, because they learned from us. They didn't learn the sequence. They mess it up, and then you can easily check that how the taste would be different. Now I would like to get about water treatment. So like, even when we were kids, in the marriage ceremony, they used to put kera in water. So what kind of mint you will be using in water for drinking, it was an exotic practice. So water was treated before the for the cooking. Even my mother, they had ponds, and then they used to say, we used to cook this today, take the water from that pond, take the water from river, take the water from the deep well. So where do you get the water, how you keep it? Let's keep the water tonight, and is that water for 2 days? Okay, then we will cook this. So I have seen this with my own eyes, that with leaves and cloths they used to cover, and then the pot were very different. So the soil was very different kind of soils. Many different types of soils were there. Some black soil, some red soils, some white type soils. And then they used to make those soils and put the water and all these things, and then put a cover. What kind of cover you will put, so vaporization happens and all these things. And then they prepare the water for the cooking. We put the water for the cooking. And then suchita is, you will never find. For an example, you will find that Hindus always wash their hand before eating. So we use our hand, okay, but we don't eat. So we eat, and other person will not eat from there. So suchita is another thing. Whenever they used to make kashundi, my mother or anybody used to make kashundi, and that is kashundi, mango and then mustard seed based kind of thing. They used to take a bath, have a clean dress, and then touch and cook. Pickles, thousands of pickles all over India. And it's Ayurvedic reasons and the use of spices. Pickles means put oil, different kind of oil based, different kind of things. And nowadays you will find a totally destroyed version of it. But a pickle was another beautiful culture where you will find how different vegetables were preserved and dried, and then they used to get it converted. So every day, as soon as sun comes, they will put that oil, put the oil based things in a glass vase in the sunlight, and years after years they used to convert. So 10 years old, 12 years old, earlier we used to get. Nowadays it is not even 1 month. I can't eat them, those pickles industry has totally destroyed in India. So So medicinal method for eating, what do you eat after what, and all these combinations were so complex. Right now, you will never find it anywhere in the world. Even now Indian kids learn those things. After eating, we put water in our mouth and we make a sound and we throw it. So nobody in the world does that. So taking the particles out immediately. You can say that, okay, in the night I do brush. No, that doesn't. Immediately you need to take it out. So grammar of seeds, what kind of seed you will be using for what, whether you will use the seed as a paste, as a roasted, as a boil. So use of seed has their own grammar. And seasonal grammar, which time of the year, in which weather, what we will eat. Even now, if it is rains, khichdi we shout, and papad. So papad is also another combinations, and pakoras, and then fries of different kind. Rain means we will eat khichdi. We have say this festival, then that. So season, festival, food combination, spices, and different kind of flower leaves used in the cooking, and poisonous combinations. That is what I'm saying. Why the world did not invent cooking is that poisonous combination, like onion and garlic, never mixed together. It's strictly prohibited. Now you'll see they mix together and then put it and do the cooking. Even Sanatan Hindus are doing it. Earlier, Middle East people and other parts of the world were doing. Even now, Hindus are doing it, because we are not creating mothers or housewives. Earlier, they were not educated in the British schools, or modern schools, but they were studied. They learned this advanced Ayurvedic concepts of cooking, that they must be cooked separately. They never mixed together and cooked. And so this food doesn't go with that food. This food, and so milk, curd you can use with meat, but milk never with milk, with meat. But now people are mixing it because they are not getting educated. So education is not there. So Hindus and then current Indian foods are as uncivilized as it was in Europe or Middle East. But even 30, 40 years ago, the situation was very different. So restriction of spices, this spice cannot be used with that spice, this spice cannot be used that spice, and then all this concepts were there. So with this, I would like to end that the rules of restrictions, the documented history of cooking, and the myths, and the wrong information that historians spread it all over the world, with the history, that okay, this food was born there, this food was born there, those everything needs to be rewritten, because the Ayurvedic practice of amla pitta vayu, that is controlling wind, controlling acidity or basicity, and flame. So which food you should not be using. Even now, some of the Ayurvedic doctors prescribe, if you have this, don't eat this. If you have this, don't eat this. If you have this disease, don't eat this. So these kind of combinations were there with the dietary combinations. And slowly those things are coming up. First, you say, the wise person, you are stupid, you are nonsense, you are uncivilized. Then slowly learn from him, and then make their next generations as useless crap, that like the Hindus have become now, with zero knowledge. Indian women have absolutely zero knowledge about cooking, zero knowledge about Ayurvedic science, how it was integrated as an integral part of cooking, and now teach them the same thing that you learned from their grandfathers. So that is what is going on. However, this triangle concept, that amla pitta vayu, this wind, flame, or the inflammatory secretion that we have in the body, and acidity, basicity, these were the foundation of Ayurveda, and these were the foundation based on which all the vegetables, flowers, everything were classified, and combinations of those we used to search from the nature. So the foundation of Ayurveda is, whenever you have a new disease, Mother Nature has already created its solution in some evolved plant. Find them, find them and integrate them as part of your food culture. So Ashtanga Sangraha was not just a documentation of Indian dietary habits or foods or other documents. So this archive was also a documentation how, with the time, as the weather changed in the planet Earth, and new Ayurvedic solutions came to the plants and something, we collect them. So Ayurveda is not a static concept, it's an evolving dynamic concept, and it is an integral part of the Indian cooking system, where you control the fire, you control, you engineer how to use fire and its wind, you control and engineer the water, you control and engineer the steam that is coming out of it. You use always oil, and that is heaviest or heavy oil. You always use flavors of many different kind of things, so that a composite flavor is generated, and you have restrictions which you never should cross the boundaries. All these things suggest that, those absent in anywhere in the world, even now, they have not learned. So we can safely say that it was Hindus, for their religious purposes, invented cooking, and nobody else.